Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Dan at Unicorn Riot. Thank you all for tuning in. We are awaiting the start of day 7 of the Kim Potter trial. Thanks for tuning in. We're just getting started here. All right, I'll mention quick. Yesterday, Alan Salvosa testified at the trial, and it's been pointed out that he tased a man in the back of his head on January 16th, 2015. The victim fell and struck his head, and he died from a traumatic brain injury. Sarah on Twitter pointed out that there's no such thing as a less lethal weapon. That's a great point. So I just wanted to highlight that little fact about the case. Give me 1 second here. So hope everyone's doing well. Still waiting for things to boot up. We are now up on Vimeo as well. Our Vimeo channel is should be streaming live now. I believe it is. And so if you go to the Vimeo link on our website, you can pull that up. 1 second. Getting the hang of running 4 outgoing streams at once. So let's see. We have our website, unicornriot.ninja. If you want to take a look at that, you can support our work. The donate link is up at the top. And we've got a Kim Potter trial landing page. We've been trying to make updates on that, about sometimes twice a day or more. And that sort of is our way to kind of cut down to the details, the sort of side points of the case. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different things in place. So that's there. And if you want to see our earlier coverage, Chris and I in particular worked hard on covering Daunte Wright. I'll just put in a plug for that. There wasn't any video available from that courtroom, so we just kind of pushed out a lot of material, Twitter, on the website and stuff. So that was a white supremacist trial, lawsuit trial down in Charlottesville. So we covered that very closely. That's also on the website. That's that other banner. So we've got a lot of different material on the website. I definitely recommend people check it out. And the new feature, we've got the Unicorn Riot Live. So take a look at Unicorn Riot Live if you want sort of the play-by-play of what's happening at trial. And that's sort of the source for the play-by-play updates from court. So we're trying to push the updates over to that side. So we'll just let things go for a minute here. Having trouble. I'm having a little technical trouble with reading the Facebook chats. I think Facebook is working, but I cannot see. So hang tight here. So they did say court would be back at 10 a.m. and there's nothing yet. So we can assume that they're meeting in chambers right now. So I'm going to go run this Daunte Wright birthday celebration press conference. That's 15 minutes long, and we're just going to await for court to come back, and as soon as it does, we will bring that to you right away. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to stay right on top of this again today. We really appreciate your support. That's what makes this coverage possible, and hang tight, and we'll be bringing you court at the moment it comes back.
Good evening, everybody. We are here today to celebrate the life of Daunte Wright, who we all know should be here. On April 11th of this year, Daunte was brutally shot by Kim Potter, the Brooklyn Center Police. We all stand here today as families that have lost loved ones at the hands of police, as well as strong community members and community leaders. We are still demanding justice for Daunte, but we want today to be an uplifting day for Daunte's family. We want today to be a day that they can remember Daunte. But we do understand and know the pain that this family is feeling and will continue to feel. We know that Daunte did not deserve to die like that. We know that Daunte's trial will be at the end of this month, November 30th. So we are asking the community to continue to come out, to keep Daunte's name alive, to not let this system sweep his name under the rug. Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom for Daunte. So we have to do events such as this to continue to keep the spotlight on his name. We know that prior to Daunte, there had been many more killings where they swept the murders under the rug. Good evening, everybody. We are here today. We want today to be a day that they can remember Daunte. But we do understand and know the pain that this family is feeling and will continue to feel. We know that Daunte did not deserve to die like that. We know that Daunte's trial will be at the end of this month, November 30th. So we are asking the community to continue to come out, to keep Daunte's name alive, to not let this system sweep his name under the rug. Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom for Daunte. So we have to do events such as this to continue to keep the spotlight on his name. We know that prior to Daunte, there had been many more killings where they swept the murders under the rug, which led up to the death of Daunte Wright. So we're going to continue to have events such as this to uplift the family, to uplift Daunte's name, and to uplift our community. We will now have words from Daunte's mother. Right.
Thank you all for joining us. This is the start of day 7. We are back live in court. Thank you all for joining us.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Deputy. All right, please be seated. Good morning, members of the jury. I know everybody's thinking about the snowstorm that is supposed to be starting shortly and going into this afternoon. I don't think it has started yet. I want you to know I'm going to continue to assess the situation and at noon we should have a better idea of how bad it's going to be. So I will continue to monitor that, and if it looks like it'll be a driving issue, we may terminate today early. Okay, just to let you know I'm thinking about it. All right, is the state ready to call its next witness?
We are, Your Honor. The state would call Michael Johnson to the stand.
Okay, please come forward and stand behind the witness chair. Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully testify in connection with this cause?
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat. You may remove your mask and state your full name and spell it.
Michael Johnson, MyChalJohnson.
All right, officer, a couple things to keep in mind when you're testifying. Yes or no answers, please. Don't shake your head. Don't say uh-huh or uh-uh. If you don't understand a question, ask for clarification. If an objection is made, stop talking immediately. Do not answer unless I tell you to. And remember to wait until the question is finished before you answer, because the court reporter is taking down what's being said. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I think the court referred to you as officer. You're obviously in a suit, not what we think of as a police uniform. Can you tell us why you're dressed in civilian clothes today?
I'm currently assigned as a patrol major.
And so you don't wear a uniform typically in your job nowadays?
Not right now.
Okay. We will get back to that in a moment, but I'm going to go back and start over. You are currently a peace officer in the state of Minnesota,
Correct.
and you have a license as a peace officer.
Yes, I do.
When did you obtain that license?
In 2005.
And if you could, since then, have you done everything required by the state to maintain your license?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell the jurors, please, your educational background to be a police officer?
I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, followed up by a skills certificate that allowed me to be licensed by the state of Minnesota
And when did you get your bachelor's degree?
in 2002.
And the skills program, when did you finish that?
In 2002.
And so at some point, did you become a police officer with the city of Brooklyn Center?
Yes.
And that was when?
May 31st, 2005.
And so from getting your skills done to that date, did you work at any other law enforcement agencies?
Not as a licensed peace officer.
Okay, explain that to us, please.
I worked as a non-licensed community service officer.
Which jurisdiction was that for?
City of Cottage Grove.
And, when I asked when you started, you said May 31st. Do you remember the date pretty
Correct.
specifically?
Yes.
Why do you remember it so well?
It's everything in the department goes back to that one single date as a start date.
And when you started that date, did you, get sworn in
Yes.
and take an oath, that kind of thing?
Yes.
And it's a pretty important day in your career.
Yes, it was.
And so when you started working for Brooklyn Center, what were your job duties?
I was assigned as a patrol officer working an overnight shift.
And so what kind of things did you do as a patrol officer?
Do a little bit of everything for the city of Brooklyn Center, everything from medicals to traffic stops to major type of incidents.
And at some point, did that change from being a patrol officer?
Yes.
And how did that change?
I was assigned to a few of other positions along the way, an auto theft investigator and a detective.
And did you eventually become a sergeant?
Yes,
When did you become a sergeant?
in October of 2015.
And when you're talking about these other things that you did, were they after you became a sergeant or some before?
Those were all before.
So that helped you get promoted to sergeant.
Correct.
What implicit in my question is that is a promotion to sergeant, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. And when you became a sergeant, how did your duties change? What did they become then?
It then went from being as a call taker specifically to a person who supervised a group of patrol officers as well as still taking some calls.
So were you a patrol sergeant? Would that be the right term?
That would be correct.
And so as a patrol sergeant, are you still out on the streets most of the time?
I would be about 50-50.
And when you're out on the streets, you're, well, I guess all the time you're supervising the patrol officers, right?
Yes.
And so when you have been working or in your work as a Brooklyn Center police officer, did you get to know Officer Kim Potter?
It's a fairly small department, so I had known of her since basically the time I had started, but really didn't get to know her until I had been assigned to the shift she worked on in 2019.
Okay. And in 2019, what do you mean by assigned to a shift?
I had the chance to, we bid by seniority. I had enough seniority to bid to a day shift, which she was on that day shift.
Okay. So prior to that, had you worked shifts with her? I'm not quite sure how that works.
No, I hadn't. I was actually assigned to a night shift where she was assigned still to a day shift. So we never even really saw each other at that point.
So for that 14 years from 2005 to 2014, you were on, or 15, you were on different shifts.
Correct.
Okay. But then in 2019, did you become her supervisor?
Yes.
And so then how often would you supervise Kim Potter?
That would be every working day, which worked out to about 7 days every 2 weeks.
And as you're supervising her, well, strike that. Let me ask you this. Throughout your career at Brooklyn Center, were there times when you socialized with Ms. Potter outside of the workplace?
Not before 2019.
But after that, you had those occasions?
Yes.
And do you also know Officer Anthony Lucky?
Yes.
And when did you get to know him?
I don't know the exact year, but he was one of the explorers for the Brooklyn Center Police Department when he was still in high school.
So still a teenager.
Yes.
And then obviously he became employed at Brooklyn Center as well, correct?
Yes.
And so did you know him then? Well, obviously you knew him. Did you supervise him then?
He was in the field training program. I wasn't the field training supervisor, but for the time that he was assigned to Officer Potter for field training, I was his duty sergeant.
So just so we can understand how that works, the trainees, the probationers, have a separate supervisor for that program.
Yeah, when they're involved in the field training program, there is a supervisor who is in charge of the program, assigns them where they need to be, and track how they're doing.
When they're out on the street, then it's the patrol sergeant who's supervising them technically out on the street. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's also a field training officer with them.
Correct.
Now, I mentioned earlier, kind of why you're not in uniform. Are you still with the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
I am not.
And when did you switch jobs?
In October of 2021.
And where are you working now?
I work for the Goodhue County Sheriff's Office.
And so that is the reason, we kind of teased on later, you're not in a uniform. That's a non-uniform position.
Correct.
Okay. During your career, have you received training in how to use a taser?
Yes.
And have you been certified to use a taser?
Yes.
Do you recall when you first became certified to use a taser?
The first time was in my initial training of the skills program back in 2002.
So even before you became a police officer?
Yes.
And when you started at Brooklyn Center, did you get authorized to carry a taser for Brooklyn Center?
Yes.
And before you could carry there, did policy require that you receive some training or certification?
Yes, initial training.
And did you do that when you first started in 2005?
Yes.
And since 2005, then, when you were certified, have you been certified every year since then?
Yes.
And when you were a patrol and a sergeant, did you carry a taser when you were out on the street?
Yes.
As part of your training, have you been put through what we'll call voluntary, how shall I say this, voluntarily being stunned by a taser?
Yes.
Explain what that means for the jury, please.
As a part of the training, they use the two probes of a taser, and when they pull the trigger of the taser, it then has the incapacitating power over you, and you kind of lose function of your body.
So the voluntary part of this is that you agreed to do it,
Yes.
and that's as part of the training?
Yes.
So they actually shoot you with a taser.
Yes.
And how many times did you volunteer to do that?
Once.
Why not twice?
Because it's not a great feeling.
Okay. And when that's done, are there others around you to help you?
Yes.
And explain that, what that means.
They're there because your muscles will lock up, and if your legs lock up, you lose your balance and can fall over. So they're there to catch you if you fall.
And have you also been involuntarily exposed to the effects of a taser?
Yes.
Can you explain that for the jurors, please?
There have been times that my partners have used a taser on suspects where if your hands get in between the taser probes, you then will receive that current through you.
And that has happened to you?
Several times.
And how does that feel?
It does not feel very good.
So based on those experiences and your training as a certified taser user, if somebody is going to get tased, what do you need to do if you're holding the person?
You try not to have your hands in between the taser probes.
Okay. I'm going to turn your attention to April 11 of 2021. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
And were you working that day?
Yes, I was.
And just tell us what your shift was on that day.
I start my shift at 5:30 in the morning, and it goes until 5:30 in the evening.
You were a patrol sergeant that day?
Yes.
Do you recall how many officers were out on the streets during that shift?
I don't remember exactly.
How would it typically be? How many would it typically be?
We would typically have 3 to 5 starting at 6 a.m. We would then have one more possibly starting at 2 and one more possibly starting at 4.
And did you hear a call for backup from Officer Lucky?
Yes.
And at the time, did you know he was in a trainee capacity?
Yes.
And he was with an FTO?
Correct.
And did you know who the FTO was?
Yes.
And who was that?
That was Officer Kim Potter.
And so the call was about what do you recall the call for backup being about?
I heard that he was on a traffic stop and was asking for a second officer to his location.
Would that be customary to call a backup on a traffic stop?
Yes.
So nothing unusual about his request for backup on that traffic stop?
No.
And did you respond that you would come to that to back him up?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Over the radio, I called out my call number and said that I would be en route.
Do you recall him providing the location of the traffic stop?
Yes.
Was it an area you were familiar with?
Yes.
And did you then go to that location?
Yes.
And do you recall roughly how long it took you to get there?
I would probably say 2-3 minutes.
So you were not too far away.
No.
And can you just describe for the jury the general location where that stop was?
I would be around 63rd Avenue and Orchard Avenue.
Now I'm going to put up on the screen an exhibit number 1, which has been received in evidence. Do you see that exhibit in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize what's depicted there?
That would be 63rd Avenue, centralized on Orchard Avenue.
And do you see the location of where the stop was?
Yes.
And there should be in front of you a little stylus.
Yes.
And if you want to just draw a circle around the area where that was. And so, just to be clear, or for the record, you're drawing a circle around the location on this photograph where the blue rectangle and the yellow X are, correct?
Correct.
And so did you, in fact, drive up and stop behind the stop?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this location, from your years of working at Brooklyn Center Police Department, what county is this area located in?
Hennepin County.
And as you arrived there, where did you park in relation to Officer Lucky?
I parked directly behind him.
And were you working alone or with another officer?
I was alone.
And so as you got there, did you approach their vehicle then?
Yes.
And what did you see kind of generally when you approached the other squad car?
As I approached, both doors were open of the squad car, with Officer Lucky sitting on the driver's side and Officer Potter sitting on the passenger side. In front of them was a four-door white sedan.
And did you have a conversation then with either Officer Potter or Officer Lucky?
I talked with Officer Potter.
And what did you learn?
I learned that the driver of the vehicle had a warrant and was also a party to a order for protection.
And did you learn more information about the warrant as you were there?
Yes.
What did you learn about the warrant?
I learned that it was a gross misdemeanor warrant for a weapons possession.
And based on your years of work as a police officer, what did that gross misdemeanor weapons warrant mean to you? What did that indicate?
It means that a person had been arrested for carrying a firearm without a permit.
So it's a permit violation.
Yes.
And so as you're conversing with them, was a decision made about what to do?
Yes.
And what was that decision?
That Officer Lucky was going to place the driver under arrest and then look more into the order for protection.
And so was that what was done?
Yes.
And how many of you then reapproached the white car?
3 of us.
And how did the 3 of you divide it up?
Yep. So Officer Lucky went to the driver's side with Officer Potter following a little ways behind him as the training officer, and I approached on the passenger side.
And so why did you go to the passenger side?
Yeah, I usually put one person on each side so that you get a good view inside the vehicle to see what's happening.
So that's sort of standard operating procedure, shall we say, when you approach a vehicle with backup?
It's one way of doing it.
Okay. And Ms. Potter went to stay towards the back of the vehicle at the time?
I believe so.
Was that customary for an FTO?
Yes.
On the day of April 11th, were you wearing a body camera?
Yes.
And were you also, operating a squad car that had a dash camera?
Yes.
And, excuse me a second. And the dash camera, was it activated as you came up and stopped at this stop?
It was activated when I activated my body camera.
Okay. So did you activate your body camera before arriving at the stop?
I activated it just as I pulled up.
Okay. And why did you do that?
That's policy. Any traffic stop, we turn on our body camera.
Okay. And so when you do that, your dash camera automatically comes on.
Yes.
And before today, have you had a chance to review your body camera from this incident?
Yes, I have.
And have you also reviewed the dash camera?
Yes, I have.
And before today, we were able to show you some of those that would be exhibits today, correct?
Yes.
And so you recognize those as accurate recordings of what happened.
Yes.
Your Honor, we would offer Exhibit 61.
Is there any objection to 61?
No.
There be no objection. 61 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, before we do that, there's a couple of questions I want to ask so that the jurors can understand some of the things going on in the video, all right? Do you recall at one point learning the name of the driver?
Yes.
And what was the name of the driver?
Daunte Wright.
Do you remember Ms. Potter asking you or making some comment about the Wright brothers?
Yes.
And did you understand what she was talking about? Well, what did that mean to you when she raised that?
It meant she knew something about them that should have kind of sparked my interest.
But your response was what?
I didn't know who they were.
Okay. And the Wright brothers that she was referring to, do you know who she was referring to?
No.
Okay. And had there been a Wright family that had been sort of known to officers?
There was another one that I was aware of.
And they did not have a Daunte Wright?
No.
All right, so what I'm going to do then is start Exhibit 61, please. Now, let's pause here just for a moment, please. So as you can see, there is 2 videos present on the screen, correct?
Yes.
And the video in the lower right, do you recognize what that is?
Yep, that would be the dash cam video for my squad.
And the video in the upper left?
That would be my body cam video.
And just as the video started, we did not hear any audio.
Correct.
Eventually there will be audio, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain why that happens?
Both of the cameras are constantly recording and will save the first 30 seconds before the video is actually started.
And that 30 seconds is the part without audio.
Yes.
Okay. And then as we're looking at this, just for the record, its timestamp is 13:59:16. Where are you driving here in this video?
This would be 63rd Avenue.
And which direction are you heading here?
I believe this would be headed eastbound.
Yeah, I tested you a little too much, didn't I? Is this, you're about to make a U-turn, correct?
Okay, if this is before I'm about to make the U-turn, I would be going westbound.
Yeah, and so you had to make a U-turn to get back to the stop.
Yes.
And then the 13:59 military time, correct?
Yes.
And so that would be 1:59 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and play the video then, please.
No, female doesn't know who he is. Said he's a 14-year-old black male dressed When he walked in the house, he said he was running from the police, and he needed to be quiet until they left him.
You're going to want to find out who the female is because there's no appeal.
He's got a gross misdemeanor warrant, and there's an OFP for a female, so I need to ID her. There's also residue, like weed on the middle console, so search the car. Apparently the car is his brother's.
You want to tell them what the warrant's for?
Warrant is for the weapons violation.
Oh, gross, yeah.
So,
Daunte Wright.
Daunte
Wright.
Daunte Wright.
Aren't those the Wright brothers? Not the ones that fly, but the other ones?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm just going to get him out and I cuff him up. I mean, he's at work, so I'm just
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we will be here in a second.
And by the way, if I didn't ask you, what is your current rank at Goodhue County?
Major.
Okay, so Major Johnson, we heard in that video a voice saying, "I don't think so." Did you recognize that voice?
Yes,
Whose voice was that?
that was mine.
And that was in response to Ms. Potter's question about the Wright family.
Yes.
So then we saw just at the tail end of that, the three of you start to approach the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And when you approached the vehicle on the passenger side, what did you observe?
I observed that there was a female sitting in the passenger seat in the front.
Did she have anything in her hands at the time?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Do you remember indicating that she had some paperwork in her hands as you approached?
That's possible.
And then what did you observe next?
I observed that Officer Lucky had asked Mr. Wright to step out of the vehicle.
And did Mr. Wright do that?
Yes.
And what happened then?
I couldn't overhear a lot of what was being said, but I was able to gather he was telling them about the warrant.
Did you hear Officer Lucky tell Mr. Wright to do anything at that point in time?
I heard him tell him to turn around.
Okay. And what about his hands? Did he say anything about that?
And put his hands behind his back.
And then at some point, at that point, did you tell Mr. Wright he was under arrest?
Yes, I did.
And why did you tell him that at that point?
Procedurally, you tell somebody that they are under arrest before placing them under arrest. If the person then doesn't cooperate with the arrest, they've been told that lawfully they are being arrested.
And so what's the importance of telling them that right at that moment in time?
Because that was just about before he was to put his hands on Mr. Wright.
So if they don't cooperate, could you charge them with some additional crime?
Yes.
Because you've told them that, right?
Yes.
So then, as you saw that going on, did you hear Officer Lucky saying anything?
Yes.
After what did you hear him say after that?
I heard him say something about don't pull away.
What did you notice anything about Mr. Wright at the time?
I saw part of his body start moving away.
And so what did you observe then after that?
That's when I actually opened the passenger side door.
And why did you open the passenger door?
I was going to make sure the car was in park and the vehicle was shut off so that he couldn't leave.
And so when you opened the passenger door, what did you do next?
I leaned in across the passenger and put my right hand on the shift lever and my left hand on the ignition key.
All right. What about the passenger? Did you take any steps to deal with the passenger at that point?
There wasn't much I was able to do. I was kind of in a compromised position, so I just leaned against her with my body weight.
Okay. And did she put up any resistance to you when you did that?
No.
And at that point, where were you standing?
I was leaning into the vehicle.
Okay. Where were your feet?
Feet were either on the curb or on the street.
And did you said something about grabbing the shift knob, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do with that?
I pushed it forward, which would be towards the park position.
So had it been out of park?
I don't believe so.
Okay. But you said you pushed it forward. I'm just trying to...
I was pushing it as far as it would go forward. That way I knew that it was in the park position.
And did you know whether the engine was on at the time?
I don't.
You indicated you reached toward the keys, right?
Yes.
What were you trying to reach for the keys for?
I was taking the key and I was turning it forward, which would be towards the off position.
So you were attempting to turn the vehicle off?
Yes.
Did you know, but you didn't know whether it was on or off?
I don't know if it was.
And at that point, what was Mr. Wright doing?
He was struggling with Officer Lucky.
Okay. Was he able to get back into the vehicle at that point?
Yes.
And what did you think he was going to try and do at that point?
Drive away.
And so at some point, did you remove your hand from the shift knob?
Yes.
And what did you do then?
I took both my hands and held on to Mr. Wright's right arm.
And were you able to grab his right arm?
Yes.
And why did you grab his right arm?
Two things. One, to prevent him from shifting the vehicle, and one, to put him into a handcuffing position.
At that time, did you know what Officer Lucky was doing?
I couldn't see Officer Lucky at that time.
Okay. Did you know what Officer Potter was doing?
I don't.
And you grabbed him to put him in a handcuffing position. I'm not sure how to ask this, but who else did you think was going to help you handcuff him? Does that make sense?
Yes. I believed it would either be Officer Lucky or Officer Potter that would be controlling his left arm to put him in a handcuffing position.
And when you did that, when you grabbed Mr. Wright's right arm, were your feet still on the street or the curb?
Yes.
And did you then hear Officer Potter's voice?
Yes.
What did you hear Officer Potter say?
I heard something to the effect of, "I'll tase you."
And what happened after that?
I heard the verbal command of, "Taser, taser, taser."
And then what happened?
And then I heard a loud pop.
And did you know what the loud pop meant?
I thought at the time that it was a taser.
When you heard taser, 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 what did you do with Mr. Wright?
I let go of his right arm.
And why did you do that?
I didn't know where those taser probes were going to be going, and I didn't want my hand in between them.
And when you let go of him, you had hold of his right arm. Was that the only way you were holding him?
Yes.
And did you see his position at the time that you let go of him?
All I could tell was that he was sitting in the driver's seat.
And where were you looking at that moment in time? Do you recall?
Kind of down towards the center console.
Okay. So after you let go of Mr. Wright, what happened next?
I saw him going for the shift knob, and I started backing out of the vehicle.
And were you able to do that?
Yes.
And before testifying today, have you had a chance to watch your body camera from this time period of the exchange?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, that is Exhibit 63, and we would offer that at this time.
Any objection to 63? Okay, 63 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish.
All right. Officer Johnson, I'm sorry, Major Johnson, when we play the video, I'm going to freeze it just a few moments to help explain so you don't have to be talking at the same time the video is running, all right?
Yes.
All right, then, Your Honor, we would publish Exhibit 63.
We will be here in a second. You're under arrest, Daunte.
Now, I have frozen the video here, and for the record should reflect that the timestamp indicates 2:01:52. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And so we watched the video to that point, and can you describe for the jurors, obviously this is the blue jeans are the passenger, correct?
Yes.
And this is the point where you're sort of leaning against her?
Yes.
Can you describe for the jurors, the arm we see here across really the top of the screen?
It looks like my right arm there is going for the shift knob.
All right. And this is the moment when you were able to, were you at this moment able to grab a hold of the shift knob?
Yes.
And can you tell what your left arm is doing?
I can't see on the screen with the shadow, but that would be the time that my left arm would be going for the key.
And by shadow, what is it?
On the monitor here.
Yeah, you probably can tilt the monitor if that gets rid of some of the glare, maybe? Maybe you can.
Yes.
Okay. And, all right, so this is all right, so what I'm going to do is let this run to 2:02:54. Now, at 2:02:54, do you still see your right hand?
Yes.
And that's still on the shift knob, correct?
Yes.
Can you see the other hands that appear to be by your hand?
Yeah, there looks to be one other hand next to it.
Do you know whose hands those are?
I can't say for sure.
Okay. Who else was in the vehicle at the time?
Mr. Wright.
And, okay, let's run it to 2:01:56, please. So, those hands that we had seen by your hand, now are you able to sort of tell whose hands they were?
Yes.
Okay. Whose were they?
Mr. Wright.
Right. And so he appears to have been trying to move the shift knob,
Yes.
but you prevented him from doing that.
Yes.
And then he pulled away from that, correct?
Yes.
Now, in this moment, we can see your right hand still on shift knob, is that right?
Yes.
And what is your left hand doing?
That would be reaching for him.
And we'll hear a voice say, "Just stay back." Do you recall who said that?
I didn't hear that part.
Okay. All right, let's play to 58, please.
Just say that.
Did you hear the voice there?
Yes.
Whose voice is that?
That was me.
And who are you saying that to?
That would be to the female passenger.
And did she stay there?
Yes.
And then we also just heard another female voice in the background. Did you recognize that voice?
Yes.
And whose voice was that?
As Officer Potter.
So then let's run this to 59, please. Now, At this point in time, can you describe for the jurors what you've done with your right arm?
That's gone to reach for his arm.
And in the background, did you hear a female voice again?
Yes.
And who is that?
Officer Potter.
And then let's go to 2020. Now, at this point in time, did you hear that female voice in the background?
Yes.
Did you recognize that voice?
Yes.
And who was that?
Officer Potter.
And can you describe for the jurors what you're doing here in this still moment at 2:02:00?
I'm holding on to his right hand and arm.
And your left arm holding on to him as well?
Both are, yes.
And your right hand appears to have a grip on Mr. Wright's hand in a certain way.
Yes.
Can you describe for the jurors what you're doing there?
I'm holding on to it so that he both can't grab onto something, and also it's a position to hold, place him back into a handcuffing position.
Is there a term for that particular way of holding them?
I don't have one.
Okay, like a wrist lock or something?
That's not specifically a wrist lock.
Okay, but this is a way of getting him ready to handcuff or not?
Yes.
All right. And at this point in time, you have his arm, Mr. Wright's right arm, over the passenger?
Yes.
Okay, we'll let this run to the end now, please.
Please stop! Please stop!
You good?
Yes!
Okay.
I grabbed the wrong fucking guy! I shot him! Oh my god!
Okay. Kim, sit down.
And Major Johnson, in meeting with you, we showed you a composite video of Officer Lucky's dash camera and your body camera during this time period, correct?
Yes.
And that is done to help the jurors understand the overall scene.
Yes.
And does that composite video fairly capture what happened in this time period?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would offer Exhibit 62, which is that video.
Any objection to 62? 62 will be admitted and you may play it.
We will be here in a second. You're under arrest, Daunte. Just stay back.
I'll tease you! I'll tease you! Please stop! Please stop!
You good?
Yes!
Okay.
I grabbed the wrong fucking guy! I shot him! Oh my god!
Okay. Kim, sit down.
PI access 63rd and Captain Drive, flight from 38 stop, start north on the red.
Starting north on the red, then can you repeat your first part, please?
Before Ms. Potter said, I shot him, did you know that that sound had been a gunshot?
No.
And after that, did you observe what happened to the white car?
Yeah, I observed it continue eastbound down 63rd and drive into oncoming traffic.
And did you, obviously you heard that there was a crash down that direction.
Yes.
So sometimes it's maybe easier for us to refer to the stop scene and the crash scene. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there were essentially two scenes that day.
Yes.
Did you go down to the crash scene?
No.
And why not?
Because Officer Salvosa was already there.
Okay, and how did you know that?
I could see his squad pulling up right as Mr. Wright's vehicle had gone into incoming traffic.
And at that point, did you know that Mr. Wright had been shot by Ms. Potter?
I knew that a shot had been fired, but I didn't know if he was hit.
So when you're saying he drove into incoming traffic, you didn't know his physical condition at the time of the crash?
Correct.
Now, we heard some radio traffic calling for north on the Reds. Did you recognize that voice?
Yes.
Whose voice was that?
Officer Salvosa.
And did you do anything with your radio at that point in time?
I was trying to transmit, but I wasn't able to.
Why not?
Because there was other people on the radio.
Okay. So only one radio can run at a time.
Yes.
All right. And so were you eventually able to get on, well, was it Officer Salvosa's radio traffic that was interfering with yours?
I think so.
Could be, I guess is one way to say it.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And then, so were you able to eventually get on the radio?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I called out that we had had shots fired and asked for additional resources to 63rd and Noble.
When you said shots fired, plural, do you know why you said shots if there was only one?
It's just always the way that it's been said. I don't know where it came from, so it's just been shots.
Yeah, just sort of typical language, right?
Yes.
And then, so the additional people that you called in, why did you do that?
Because I knew that we had two scenes. We did have shots fired, and we're going to need additional help no matter what it was that had happened.
If an officer is involved in a shooting, are there separate procedures that take over to deal with that kind of situation?
Yes.
And in those situations, are there officers known as involved and uninvolved?
Yes.
And at this point in time, did you know that you would be an involved officer?
Yes.
And that Potter and Lucky would also be involved officers?
Yes.
So what did that mean to you at that point in time with regard to your supervisor role right then?
It meant that I needed somebody to take over as the scene supervisor once that was possible, because I wouldn't be able to do all of the things that needed to be done as being an involved officer.
And so then you called in, I think you mentioned other agencies. Do you recall doing that?
Yes.
Why?
I didn't know how many officers we currently had clear in Brooklyn Center, but I knew that we were going to need more than we had available that day.
And what did you ask at that point in time Officer Potter and Lucky to do?
I asked them to sit down.
And and did your body-worn camera continue to run?
Yes.
And have you been able to observe that video as well, your body-worn camera following the incident?
Yes.
At this time, we would offer Exhibit 64, which is that video.
Any objection to 64?
Objection.
64 will be admitted and you may publish.
You did?
Yes!
Okay.
I grabbed the wrong fucking gun! I shot him! Oh my god!
Okay. Kim, sit down. Okay.
I want to freeze it right there just for a quick moment. And for the record, the timestamp at the top is 14:02. There were 3 or 4 audible beeps. Can you explain to the jury what those beeps are?
That was me trying to transmit over my radio. However, at the same time, somebody was already transmitting.
So that beep is an indication of what you described earlier, not being able to get on.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Starting north on the res, and can you repeat your first target?
3205, we got shots fired. Start more units, please. We're going to need additional units to Noble and 63rd.
Just breathe. Are you okay? Just breathe.
Reach your 19-7 at gunpoint, 63rd and Captain Drive.
Okay, one at gunpoint, 63rd.
Kim, take a breath, okay?
Just breathe. Car injured as well. As soon as we get additional cars, I'll check for injuries. Suspects are not compliant. They're moving it.
No, you're not. Just
Emergency shots from all one on the units.
Kim, that guy was trying to take off with me in the car.
okay.
3205, can you start some additional supervisors from other agencies, please?
He's still.
Yeah,
Crystal's en route. 4142 en route. Not locked in route.
Yeah, Kim, take a breath, okay?
6 en route.
Kim, take a breath. You're all right, Kim.
Reach tonight, and we'll take 2 rigs, stage them a couple blocks out.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Copy, stage couple blocks up.
Driver, stop breathing.
Driver not breathing.
I'll take an additional squad and we'll yank him out. But get him here on the rest. I'm by myself, holding him at gunpoint.
Kim, take a breath. Kim, breathe, okay?
We can get the road shut down, westbound.
Yeah, just park
I'll take it there.
my squad, not yours. Park with my squad. Kim, take a breath. Kim, you're okay. Take a breath, okay?
Reach him, I can make it 3 rigs. I got 1 male not breathing, 1 female with facial lacerations, and then I've got another civilian car that I have not been able to check on yet.
Copy, 3 rigs.
And 3205, we'll take anybody that's available. We need additional help.
5153, I'll be arriving.
5153, copy.
Squad, come to me at 63rd and Catherine so we can get the driver out and the passenger, and then we'll have to check on anyone else after. But the driver is not breathing according to the passenger.
Oh my God! What have I done? What have I done? Oh my God!
Several Brooklyn Park units are arriving.
Question 5.
Yeah, we're all right.
Passenger's moving around. I can't see him. We're going to need to extricate him if he's not breathing. So I'll wait for additional to come up with a plan. Three 207 is arriving.
Okay.
Question 6.
Hey, Anthony, you just sit down here, okay?
319, the suspect I'm at gunpoint at is a flee from 38 stop.
Question 6.
Hey, both you guys, okay? Are you anything injured?
3207, whoever's got a bunker, come on up to Catherine, 63rd.
Oh my God!
700 for domestic, 15-year-old son, 2624 94th Avenue. 4142 arriving.
Question 6.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Daddy, can you go call Chuck for me?
Yep, hey, Kim, as soon as we're code 4 here, I'm going to get all that taken care of for you, okay?
108, 5200 domestic.
I'm just take care of that first, and then I'll need somebody. Take a breath, okay, Kim? Take a breath.
In the video, Ms. Potter can be heard saying, "I'm going to prison." And that was when you said to her that he was trying to drive off with me in the car?
Yes.
Do you remember saying that to her?
I actually don't.
And when did you learn that you had said that to her?
When I watched my body cam video.
How long after the incident was that?
It was probably about a week.
In that video, she also asked to call Chuck, correct?
Yes.
And did you understand what she was asking?
Yes.
Who is Chuck?
That would be Detective Chuck Ballou.
And do you know how to spell his last name?
It's V as in Victor, Alleeau.
And did you understand why she wanted to call Mr. Ballou?
Yes.
Why?
Because he would be her union representative.
While you were working, well, on April 11th, were you a member of that union?
No.
Were the patrol officers a member of that union?
Yes.
And was Ms. Potter, did you know if she was in a role with the union?
This is irrelevant, being a member of the union. It's nothing to do with this case.
The objection is sustained and the jury will disregard.
Your Honor, may I be heard about that, please?
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in this morning. We've been hearing from Officer Michael Johnson being examined by Matthew Frank, the state's attorney. What we heard there was, I believe, Earl Gray, the defense attorney, objecting to referencing the police union. Thank you all for tuning in. We're live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. We've also got the Vimeo stream running live for the first time. We're adding Vimeo to our services as we go on. We're a small group. We have limited capacity, so the Unicorn Riot Live Twitter is not running at the moment. But as we have capacity, we'll bring it back and keep tweeting live from court when we can. We are a small group. We appreciate your support. So that's where we're at, day 7. Earlier when we came in, the judge definitely mentioned that there's a large snowstorm coming into Minneapolis. Minnesota's famed for its winter weather, and they're finally getting the first wave of winter weather coming in. So it is possible the court will end early. What I have something queued up for folks. We have footage. It's pretty much, I think we're just going to run for the lunch break. There may not be a morning break because the morning stopped early, but we'll be running footage that we streamed from the 11th. So we're gonna jump right in, and during the break we'll run some footage that we live streamed from the huge police response, all the stuff that happened in the hours following this fatal encounter. So we'll bring that to you. Interviews from the street, hear from the folks that were right out there on the front of everything near the Brooklyn Center Police Department on that day in April when this tragedy happened. So thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your support. Again, this is Dan at Unicorn Riot. And take a look at our website, unicornriot.ninja. While we're waiting on the sidebar, let's pop that up. We do really depend on your support, and especially, share our media out there too, please. Thank you.
My original ruling is granting the objection.
I don't remember if you did or not. Could you tell the jury not to regard that testimony?
Okay. Ms. Potter's union membership is not relevant to any issue in this case. You ought to disregard any testimony regarding that. Okay?
And so Major Johnson did you then, for the rest of that shift until you left, stay at the stop scene?
No.
Right. At some point, you left the scene altogether. I guess my question should be more precise. Did you ever go to the other scene, the crash scene?
No.
And while you were still back at the stop scene, did you do something with Ms. Potter's firearm?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jurors what you did?
Her mental state of not knowing what she might do. I knew that her firearm was a piece of evidence at that time, so I removed her firearm and put it in my holster and put my gun in her holster, just so that that evidence was preserved.
And then was that all captured by body camera as well?
Yes.
And, Your Honor, we would offer at this time Exhibit 65.
This would be cumulative. Just testify, you know.
Okay. The objection is overruled. I'll allow you to play the video. And 65 will be admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Stay right here. Stay right here, okay? Kim, I'm going to take this but give you mine, okay?
No, just let me
No.
kill myself. Like,
No, that's not happening, Kim. I'm giving you my gun, okay? I'm just going to hold on to yours. All right? Kim? We'll get it all figured out, okay?
I don't know. I don't know what's happened.
Okay, Kim, sit down, please, okay? Put my gun in your holster.
I don't know what happened. Okay. Don't know.
But can you come over and sit by Lucky?
Yeah.
Right?
I'll shut the camera off after.
I'm still rolling.
It's fine.
Incidentally, Major Johnson, were you wearing a taser that day?
Yes.
And during this time period that we just saw, immediately after the incident, did you check Potter and Lucky for injuries?
Yes.
And did you see any injuries?
No.
Did they report any injuries?
No.
And did other officers eventually come to the scene?
Yes.
And as part of that process you made reference to earlier, did you assign officers to Potter and Lucky?
Yes.
And explain just real briefly why you do that.
It's just to make sure that they are being taken care of, that we keep them uninvolved from the incident, that they don't hear anything else that is happening, and that person's kind of their caregiver for the next little while.
And under that policy, are the involved officers supposed to talk about the incident?
No.
And when, at some point, did another sergeant arrive to sort of take over a supervisory role there at the scenes?
Yes.
And did you provide information to that sergeant about what you knew?
Yes.
Just to be clear, it was a Brooklyn Center sergeant?
2 Brooklyn Center sergeants.
Okay. And then did they sort of take over control of everything at that point?
Yes.
And you provided them the important information that they needed to do that, to take over?
Yes.
And did you, subsequent to that, or later, obtain more information that concerned you about Officer Potter?
Yes.
And what was that?
That another officer was concerned that she may harm herself.
And which officer was that?
That was Officer Clean Fricky.
Do you know how to spell her last name?
Yes. F as in Frank, Ricke.
And so, what did you do?
Officer Potter was sitting in a squad, and so I had gone over to her and discreetly asked if I could see my firearm that was in her holster. I was able to turn away from her with my firearm, removed the magazine from it and the one round that was in the chamber. So at that time, there were no rounds in the firearm.
Did you do this in a way that she could see it?
She was not able to see.
And did you give the ammunition to somebody?
Yes, I handed it to Officer Fricky.
And then did you get it back?
Yes.
All right. And so at that point in time, where is the gun that Officer Potter used in the incident?
In my holster.
And where is your gun?
It is in Officer Potter's holster.
And the ammunition from your gun is where?
In my pocket.
Your Honor, we are going to offer Exhibit 71, which is a video of this incident.
Any objection? Okay, the objection is overruled. I'm going to let 71 in and to be played.
And were you actually, because you weren't here at all, right? Can you stay with her? I would rather, she knows you, I'd rather have you stay with her if possible.
Can I make this?
Yeah.
There's somebody in the back of my squad who needs an ambulance. She needs to come with.
Okay.
It's way down there.
Talk to Peterson or somebody else. Okay. All I want you to worry about now is
There's a female in the back of 332. She has some facial injuries. Can you just make sure she gets seen? No problem. Got it.
Kim, can I see my gun real quick? I'm going to give it right back to you, okay? I'm just going to give her my gun for now. Okay. I have yours, okay? Chuck is on his way, all right?
And then at some point, did a commander come to the scene?
Yes.
And so just explain to us the kind of the hierarchy of sergeant, commander.
Yes, so sergeant, and then my direct supervisor would be the patrol commander, and his direct supervisor would be the chief of police.
And who was the patrol commander at the time?
Tony Grunig.
And you can see the habit I'm in. Can you spell Grunig for us?
Yes. It's G as in George, Ruenig.
And did he eventually come to the scene?
Yes.
And did you provide him information from the incident?
Yes.
And everything that you thought was important there?
Yes.
And did you explain to him that you thought the person was trying to drive away with you in the car?
No.
And did you then, were you able to then sort of stop any responsibility you had for controlling the scene and turn that over?
Yes.
And were you eventually taken from the scene?
Yes.
And somebody gave you a ride?
Yes.
And you went back to where?
The Brooklyn Center Police Department.
And did you understand at some point later then that the investigation would be taken over by an outside agency?
Yes.
And which agency was that?
The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
And did you have an opportunity to meet with investigators from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension later?
Yes.
Just for the jurors' brief understanding, they are a state law enforcement agency.
Correct.
And during that part of the day, did the BCA investigators talk to you about the firearms?
Yes.
And can you describe for the jurors, what was done in that regard with regard to the two firearms, yours and Potter's?
Yes. They came to me and I had explained the circumstances of why I had that firearm, and they then collected the firearm from me.
When you say the firearm,
That was in my holster.
and which we knew at that point was the one that you had taken from Officer Potter?
Yes.
All right. And what happened then after that?
That was turned over to them as evidence.
All right. What about your firearm?
I didn't see my firearm again.
Okay. So the BCA did not bring your firearm back to you?
No.
Okay. Shortly after this, you wrote a brief report about what happened, correct?
Yes.
And would it refresh your recollection about those moments if you had a chance to look at that briefly?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I?
I do have a copy of it.
Oh, with you?
Yes, I do.
If you want to look at if you could please, the second page, the last paragraph. Do you see that?
Yes.
And counsel, just for the record, Bates 650. Just read that to yourself. Does that refresh your recollection about your firearm?
Yes.
Okay. So did they bring you your firearm at some point?
They may have brought mine back, but I didn't get it back.
Okay.
That is still with the BCA.
All right. So they came to you with it, but maintained it as well?
Yes.
All right. I just want to clarify that. Okay. And so you turned over to them Potter's firearm as well?
Yes.
And as part of that interaction with the BCA agents, did they actually take photographs of you in your uniform?
Yes, they did.
Okay. That's all I have here.
Okay, members of the jury, we're going to take our morning break. Okay, so 20 minutes. You may step down, Major. Okay, counsel for the state, I just want to emphasize again that I'm going to start regularly sustaining objections to cumulative. If you put a witness on the stand, go through a lot of detail on what happened, and then want to show the video afterwards. I think Mr. Frank was pretty efficient during the beginning when he was showing the tape, stopping it, and having the officer explain what they were seeing. But I'm not going to allow any more lengthy testimony about what's going to happen and then show the video. So please keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to check and see. I think what we need to do is we have to be able to finish the cross on Major Johnson. but today, so we're not going to split it up. But let's take a 20-minute break, and I'll check out what the weather is. Okay.
Thank you all for joining us. This is Dan at Unicorn Riot. So we're waiting on court to come back. I guess that'll be a little bit longer than 15 minutes, probably about this time. There we go. So we really appreciate your support. Thanks for letting everybody know what we're doing. We really actually count on everyone to kind of share our work. Our website's unicornriot.ninja. The stories are all up on there. Kim Potter trial page, landing page has been updated. You can donate to us by the donate link up there at the top. We really appreciate that. So we've been hearing from that officer. His title is now Major Johnson out in Goodhue County, but at the time he was a Brooklyn Center police officer. I sort of had an unclear title up earlier because he's not currently working in Brooklyn Center. So thank you all for tuning in. And again, they're clearly kind of concerned about the weather, so seems pretty probable that court is going to end early today because of a snowstorm. We're up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, live. We're taking a shot at Vimeo, and so we're getting that going. Oh, the music. Sorry, I've been trying, like, they keep kind of sticking in hold music on the feed. So the music was not my choice. They've just been putting in kind of strange music. The people that do the pool feed up at Court TV have been sticking music in on us unexpectedly. Anyway, so I'm going to run some material from the April 11th aftermath, the protests that were happening in the city. When that happened, you'll have to just give me a moment here. This was the post that we put up when it happened. If you can search on our website, that was the post we had. Just give me 1 second, and I'll get that ready for you folks. Thank you.
They killed my brother for nothing. He had no weapons on him. I'm confused. Why do we keep living like this? Why do they keep killing us? I keep asking. Why I gotta live through? I gotta be scared too. Everybody gotta be scared. Cause look what they doing to us. This is too sad. I can't believe what the world has turned into. This is crazy. It's tiring. We're getting tired, but we gotta keep fighting till we get what we deserve.
Can you talk about your brother?
What do y'all wanna know?
What kind of person was he? What's your favorite memories?
He is so goofy. Like he just makes everybody happy. Like if you see anybody sad, he'll come to you and make you so happy. And that's just, they took my brother away from me. And y'all don't understand. Like I'm so hurt. They really just took him. I still can't believe it. I still keep thinking I'm finna go home and see him. No, they took my brother from me. And it really hurts. It really does.
When's the last time you saw him?
The last time I saw him was a week ago. The last time I saw him, it was a week ago.
Did you think it would be the last time?
No, I never would think that. I always make sure. That's so crazy, though. I just can't believe this. I really can't, but thank you.
We'll say a few words and we'll get started on the march. We are here standing in solidarity with Daunte's family. We have a bunch of the families here that have lost loved ones.
So this footage is our live stream from April 11th in the evening after the fatal encounter that Kim Potter caused to Daunte Wright. This was later in the day. This is our stream. Thank you for tuning in. Again, we're expecting about court to come back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Under the laws of the state of Minnesota.
Right to do your ass.
Do not run! Do not run! Do not run! Do not run!
Minnesota Statute 6091715 prohibits remaining present in unlawful assembly. You are hereby ordered to immediately disperse, which means leave this area. Please do so by going to your east to the other side of Humboldt Avenue. If you do not cease your unlawful behavior and disperse immediately, you will be arrested. You have 10 minutes to leave the area. Thank you for your cooperation.
We're live at the Brooklyn Center Police Department, where the police have just declared an unlawful assembly. They gave the protest. Oh, go ahead. 10 minutes to disperse. That's neighborhood reporters on the scene.
Unicorn riots here.
Yeah, Ricardo. We got some other folks that are. Whoops, sorry, bro. We'll go around you. Again, we're here live at Brooklyn Center Police Department. The police just gave a 10-minute dispersal order. You see their emergency services truck back there, as well as some other sheriffs and beefed up police officers, uniforms. You see a lot of trash that was thrown at them.
Me? Let me say something.
Yeah.
Oh, not to him.
Oh. Yeah, you say something to them. I'm sorry. You see all this trash. Here's the police station in the distance. There's still a bunch of people coming this way, coming this direction. Hey.
Put the number in your phone right fucking now.
Oh my dear, bro, they took my car.
Put the number in your phone real quick. She's right here. Put the number in your phone real quick. I don't have
This gentleman right here is the leader of the police. The dude walking with his, he's the one leading out here.
Oh, my grandpa, y'all took my cousin Philando. I don't give no fuck. I never gave a fuck. And whenever I see y'all without some badges on my grandpa, I'm on dirt. And I'm beating ass on sight. And I'm gonna murder one of y'all. I really want to snatch your badge off because you's a bitch. Brother!
Yeah. You did?
Okay.
They got shooters up on the roof. It's hard to see them.
They ain't gonna win.
They're not. They know they right here.
It's too
Yeah, they were shooting marker rounds
This is
earlier.
footage from April 11th,
They
afternoon.
got them in that one. They got the blue marker rounds.
Why don't pepper balls they can fire like round after round after round?
Right, yeah. They used them August 26th downtown at the unrest.
Definitely on dirt. Yeah, remember this day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not gonna hurt you almost.
It makes you way more sneezy.
And I definitely try to whack one of y'all last with a hand bottle. The last time y'all took George Floyd.
All right, yep.
It was me. I'm like that. I don't get no fuck.
So now people are getting others to fall back and go to the street.
We got followers that are following. Hey everybody, Rubia from New Orleans. Great to see y'all. Everybody was telling me they were seeing me on your feed. So hello, how are you?
All right, thank you. You were reciting Frederick Douglass, I think.
I'm a history teacher from New Orleans.
Ah, word.
Yeah, I've been following Unicorn for a while. Y'all doing great coverage on the Chauvin trial.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I am Captain Crowley on behalf of the Brooklyn Center Police Department.
We can't hear you.
His speaker went out.
The police department has declared this assembly unlawful under the laws of the state of Minnesota.
Fuck is KKK? Is that who you are? Is that who you are? The fuck is KKK? Huh?
Minnesota Statute 609715 prohibits remaining present at an unlawful assembly.
Fuck you! Fuck the KKK! Fuck you Nazis! You suck, you fucking idiots! You're all fucking redneck pieces of shit!
Some bottles getting
You are
tossed
hereby
now.
ordered to immediately disperse, which means leave this area.
Some police
Please
officers
do
definitely
so
got hit
by
with
going
some
to the other
projectiles.
side of Humboldt Avenue.
Fuck you!
Some more projectiles coming.
If you do not cease your unlawful behavior and disperse immediately, you will be arrested.
Looks like mostly just press up here at the point right now. People are moving barricades up.
You have corrections. You have 5 minutes to leave the area. 5 minutes to leave the area. Thank you for your cooperation.
I know what time it is, right? Y'all kill one! Oh, shit! Yeah! Hey! It's over with, bitch! We gonna burn this bitch down!
You already know. Well, that thing I left,
Tensions are very high. Police are now putting on gas masks. I believe they moved their first unit back.
Y'all, we got problems over here. Somebody get him some milk. Now who told you to mace with your bitch ass?
So, it smells like mace. I don't know, the police mace somebody. It's a large crowd that's still, it's maneuvered its way out to the street off Humboldt Ave. The police are maneuvering themselves with the protection. There's definitely some pepper spray was sprayed. Pretty spicy right here. Thanks, man. That officer just got sprayed with whatever was thrown at him. See, and this is for Daunte Wright, who was killed earlier today. He was 20 years old.
May I have your attention, please?
Okay, Debbie. Oh, you may be seated.
All right, we are back live for day 7. Michael Johnson is the officer who was on the scene, who at the time worked for Brooklyn Center. The jury's coming in, so they're all standing for the jury. So we are back live. Thank you for joining us here at Unicorn Riot. Go to our website, unicornriot.ninja, if you want updates. This is day 7 of the trial. Johnson was the officer who was at the front right of the vehicle during the shooting, and they've sort of been stepping through some of the last moments of that. And then the judge also admonished the state to not be cumulative, which is like giving repetitive details. So there's been some of that was discussed.
Members of the jury, I know you don't have any windows in the courtroom that you're waiting in, so I wanted to let you know that it hasn't started snowing, okay? All right. Okay, does the defense have any cross?
Good morning, Major Johnson.
Morning, sir.
Your present employment is where?
Goodhue County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, and you're a major there?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what that means as far as, in Goodhue County, that's in Red Wing?
Yes.
Red Wing. Could you tell the jury what that means, being a major on the Sheriff's Department?
Yes. Basically, I oversee the patrol division of that agency.
Okay. So you're the boss?
One of them.
All right. How many oversee the patrol division?
Just me.
So you're the boss of the patrol division?
Of the patrol division.
Okay. You don't like to brag about it?
No.
Okay. You've known Kim Pop for many years, is that right?
Yes.
When you came on the police force of Brooklyn Center in 2005 was when you first met her?
Yes.
And although you didn't work the same shifts, you would run into her at various times?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself a friend of hers?
As of recently, or I should say, over the past few years, we've become more of friends.
Okay. And in 2019, you were a sergeant at that time, but you were assigned to the patrol of her unit, right?
Yes.
Okay, I mixed those words up, but I think you understood it. So you oversaw her from 2019 until this year.
Yes.
And
All right, we definitely get some upstream tech issues.
The objection is overruled.
did she get, tell me if you know this or not. Did she get in her review the top review of exceeded expectations?
Yes.
And is that meaningful? What does that mean to a patrol?
That means that they go above and beyond the normal activity of a patrol officer.
And you were aware that she also worked with domestic victims, is that right?
Yes.
And she also was a casket carrier for officers killed in the line of duty, correct?
Yes.
Now, to your knowledge, and since you worked with her since 2019, worked over her, has she ever received a complaint of excessive force?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. And the answer will stand. Major, will you just remember, if an objection is made, stop talking right away, okay?
Yep.
And don't answer unless I tell you to.
Yes.
But the answer will stand.
Okay. So, let's just go to the incident. On April 11th, you heard Officer Lucky over the phone, go ahead.
Radio.
Radio, thank you. You heard Officer Lucky over the radio say he's making the traffic stop.
Yes.
And you knew at that time that Officer Lucky was a trainee, and Officer Potter at that time was their FTO, correct?
Yes.
Field Training Officer?
Yes.
And so you decided to go there as being the officer to watch over it, correct?
To be his assisting officer, a backup officer.
Okay, a backup officer. Your Honor, excuse me a minute. And we already went over the video and of your testimony as to when you arrived and you learned about that the fellow that had been stopped, Daunte Wright, had a warrant for a weapons violation.
Yes.
What does that tell you as an experienced police officer and now a major at Goodhue County Sheriff's Office when somebody has a weapons violation?
It means if they had a weapon before, it's possible they have a weapon again.
All right. And it also means that they had the weapon illegally because they did not have a permit for it.
Correct.
And in order to have a weapon, you have to go through classes and get a permit, correct?
To carry it, yes.
So he had a weapons violation warrant by a judge, correct?
Yes.
And he also had a restraining order, correct? Order for protection, OFP?
Yes.
And at the time you were talking to Lucky and Kimberly Potter, Officer Potter, you learned that, correct?
Yes.
And they decided to execute the warrant and find out who the lady was in the car, correct?
Yes.
And was that proper procedure based on your experience and you overseeing them?
Yes.
You agreed with that, correct?
Yes.
You also knew that there was marijuana, you were told there was marijuana seedlings or something else in the car, correct?
Yes.
So your goal was, when you went up there to the right car, was to arrest him for the warrant and also to find out who the lady was next to him to make sure that was not the lady that had the FTO on it, or not the FTO, the order for protection on him. Is that right? And when you went up to the vehicle, you went on the passenger side, correct?
Yes.
And that was to what?
As a cover officer.
And what does cover officer mean?
Somebody who gets a different view of what's going on inside the car.
Okay, and if there is some kind of attempt to escape, you could assist in stopping the escape, correct?
Yes.
And that's what covering your arresting officer, correct?
Yeah, part of it.
So, in this case, we've watched many videos and time sequences. And when you went up to the car, Officer Lucky, based on the videos, told Mr. Wright to step out of the car. Do you remember him telling him that? You don't remember exact time, but do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And did Daunte Wright step out of the car right away, or don't you remember?
As far as I remember, he did.
Okay. And when he stepped out of the car, Officer Lucky was going to handcuff him, correct?
Yes.
But you were the first one that yelled over to the other side of the car and told Daunte Wright that he was under arrest, correct?
Yes.
And then the other two officers, Officer Potter and Officer Lucky, also told him he was under arrest, correct?
I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that?
No.
All right. So between the time that you told him he was under arrest until the time that he resisted arrest was approximately, according to the tapes, approximately 13 seconds. Is that about right? From when you told him he was under arrest to when he tried to get away from Lucky and get in the car?
Without seeing a timestamp, it sounds about right.
Sounds about right. And then when he pulled away to get back in the car, 6 seconds later, when he was struggling with Officer Lucky, and 6 seconds later, Kim Potter, according to the video, went around Lucky to assist Officer Lucky in trying to restrain Daunte Wright from not getting in the car. That's what's in the video, Judge. I'm cross-examining him.
This witness is questioned. He's talking about some other piece of evidence.
All right. No speaking objections. If you want to make an objection, one-word objections, and we can sidebar if you want. Is the state requesting a sidebar?
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're on a sidebar. You can see that the judge has a microphone headset going. They all have headsets. That's part of a COVID protection measure to reduce the risk of, transmitting viruses inside the courtroom. So they've been kind of going back and forth about, what evidence is germane. We heard earlier that they couldn't really talk about the police union thing. There was definitely references on the body cams to getting a police union representative on the site of the shooting. So that's where we're at right now. And we've been kind of debating over here if it is actually snowing. The radar weather shows there isn't much snow in the Twin Cities, but on the ground we are hearing some reports of snow inside Minneapolis. So there's a little variation in the weather there right now. So thank you all for tuning in. Also, we heard Earl Grey say that there were marijuana seedlings, and Officer Johnson said yes, which is fairly ridiculous. But there's been a lot of, playing up by the defense of this drug war panic. As I mentioned earlier this week, Officer Yanez, who killed Philando Castile, also used marijuana as an excuse for police violence. So that's definitely a pattern.
The objection is overruled, and you may proceed, Mr. Gray.
Thank you. According to the other videos shown to the jury, after you said he was under arrest,
we're having a little instability.
Trying to get back in his car. Do you agree that that's what you saw?
Yes.
About 13 seconds. And then 6 seconds, approximately 6 seconds later, although you didn't hear it, on the videos from the other officers, from Officer Lucky, Officer Potter said, "I'm going to tase you." And that, did you hear that?
Yes.
Well, you heard the second one, I think. There was "I'm going to tase you" first. There's two I'm going to tase you. One you didn't hear. It was on the other side there.
I heard one.
Yes. We'll get there. And then after, oh, by the way, when Officer Lucky was attempting to keep him outside the car, was Daunte Wright resisting, or was he not? He was resisting and trying to get back in the car, wasn't he?
That's what it appeared.
Yes. And he didn't stop at time when Lucky was wrestling with him to say, okay, I give up, and put his hands behind him, did he? Okay. And although he didn't hear it, seconds later, there was a statement by Officer Potter, I'm going to tase you. He didn't stop then either, did he?
No.
Find out who the lady is when somebody does that. Are you supposed to let him go?
No.
What are you supposed to do?
Under arrest.
And if they try to get away, use force, correct?
Yes.
So, 3 seconds after she said, I'm going to tase you the first time, she said again, I'm going to tase you. And at that time, according to the videos, she was pointing what she thought was a taser, but it was a gun, at Daunte. Right.
Is there a question, Mr. Gray?
Yes, I am. I wasn't done with my question. At any time between the time that you saw him, by Wright, Mr. Wright, go into the car, into the white car, until you heard the second, I'm going to tase you, did he stop resisting at all?
No.
Did he enhance his resistance by still fighting with people to get in the car?
Yes.
And what's your size? What are you, 6'2" or something? Did it appear unreasonable to you as an officer that this driver of this car, Daunte Wright, with this warrant, would do what he did? Did it seem unreasonable to you?
Yes.
So after the second, I'm going to tase you, and that's the one you heard. After you heard that one, did the Daunte Wright stop at any time and say, okay, I'm done, give up?
No.
And at that point in time, was that when you went into the vehicle correct?
Yes.
And you were trying to get a hold of the shifter to stop him from grabbing that, correct?
Yes.
And you also tried to get a hold of the key with the other hand, correct?
Yes.
And you were in that vehicle and your body was lying over the young lady in there, correct?
Yes.
And one reason your body was lying over her was to keep her from sitting there, right? So she wouldn't get involved. Your statement?
Yes.
And then you weren't having any success in calming him down either, were you? He was still fighting and struggling, correct?
Yes.
And then you heard taser, 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 and that would be approximately 3 seconds after you heard Officer Potter say, I'm going to tase you. There was a time period between when she said that and when she said taser, 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 correct?
Yes.
During that time period, did Daunte Wright at any time show any sign of stopping, giving up, saying, okay, I'm done?
No.
And then when the taser, taser, taser was said, approximately a second later, you heard the shot, and you thought it might be a taser, you didn't know. It was a loud noise, correct?
Yes.
And the reason that an officer with a taser says taser, 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 is to warn other officers that were in the vicinity of this fellow, Daunte Wright, to back off, correct?
Yes.
And by the way, in using a firearm, you're taught in training that if you use your firearm, you're expected to shoot your firearm twice, correct?
Not every time.
Okay, but are you trained on that?
It is one of the things, yes.
Yes. And that's called using deadly force, correct?
Yes.
In this case, you heard one pop and that was it, correct?
Yes.
In between the time of taser, taser, taser and a second later, did you release from the body of
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And then you went outside the car, correct?
Yes.
And you're disoriented, correct?
Yes.
And that's because of your struggle with him and the loud noise. Fair statement?
Yeah, the loud noise.
And you, as soon as you got out of the car, according to the videos, that car took off like a jet. Fair statement? Did you see it in the video?
Yes.
Did it go quite fast?
Yes, took off quick.
And within seconds after it took off, there was a loud crash. Actually, two crashes, correct?
Yes.
And that was the accident down the block, correct?
Hey folks, we have a connection problem. It'll take a second to get it back.
Take off with me in the car. You agree you said that, right?
Yes.
And if he had taken off with you in that car halfway, what would have happened to you? What would you think would be the worst that would happen?
Probably dragged.
Dragged and what?
Injured.
Seriously injured, maybe even dead, right?
Yes.
And if that were the case, would an officer in your position, with Officer Potter trying to stop him from resisting with you and resisting Lucky, would it be fair for that officer to use a firearm to stop him?
By state statute, yes.
By state statute.
Yes.
There's a statute that says to avoid death or grave bodily harm, you have a right to use deadly force, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware of that statute?
Yes.
So basically, based on these videos and the conduct of Daunte Wright, as far as you're concerned, and you were there, Kimberly Potter would have had a right to use a firearm, right?
Yes.
May I confer with co-counsel for a minute?
Thank you all for joining us. So the defense is having a little huddle there. We've adjusted our system a little. Hopefully it'll stabilize. We've had a little bit of bumpy glitches today with this audio. Thank you for patience.
Thank you, sir. I'm done. Thanks, Judge.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Major, you were asked about right to use a firearm.
Yes.
And you've had extensive firearm training, correct?
Yes.
And when you use a firearm to shoot somebody, that is deadly force.
Yes.
And so what Ms. Potter used here was deadly force.
Yes.
When you use deadly force, you have to consider.
The objection is sustained.
Okay.
No leading questions, please.
I will rephrase. When you use deadly force, do you need to consider surroundings?
Yes.
And do you need to know whether you could shoot another police officer or another person?
Yes.
And on April 11th of 2021, the Brooklyn Center Police Department had standard issued ammunition.
Yes.
And that was, what kind of ammunition did you use?
I don't know specifically which one.
Was it hollow point?
Yes.
And when you could Officer Potter, in using a firearm, have shot you?
Possible.
Could.
And the objection is sustained.
How is that? May I?
All right, so they're going into another sidebar with the judge, and there was some objection about a leading question, which the judge sustained. Thanks all for your patience. We've had some, I don't know, bumpy audio. Been trying to tune it, but it just, I don't know. Something's goofy in the system. It's pretty pesky. I am sorry about that, but we're trying our best to keep it resolved. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Counsel, I'm going to let you rephrase that question.
When you heard this loud pop, which side of the car were you standing on?
Passenger.
And which side of the car was Officer Potter on?
Driver.
And where in relation to the two of you was Mr. Wright?
In between.
And when you heard the loud pop, where were you in relation to Mr. Wright? How far from him?
6 inches to a foot.
And where was the female passenger at the time of the pop?
Right to my left.
And where was Officer Lucky?
I don't know.
And at the time of the loud pop, you could not see Officer Potter, correct?
No.
And in part because you were looking, well, why is that?
I was kind of looking down towards the center console, and Mr. Wright was in between us.
And you don't know, well, let me ask you this. You did not take out your, well, did you take out your gun and shoot Mr. Wright?
No.
Did you take out your taser and taser Mr. Wright?
No.
You indicated that you could have been dragged. Were you dragged by the car?
No.
And in fact, did you just stand up as the car pulled away?
Yes.
The entire time of the interaction with Mr. Wright, where were your feet?
Either against the curb or against the street.
You were asked if, based on your position in the car, you indicated you could have been dragged, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that you wanted to keep him from fleeing.
Yes.
And is that, why did you then grab the shift knob of the car when you first reached into the car?
To keep it in park.
And to prevent it from moving?
Yes.
And when you had your hand on the shift knob, did the car move?
No.
When you had your hand on Mr. Wright, when you had both your left and your right hands on Mr. Wright's right arm, did the car move?
No.
After Officer Potter used her taser, did the car move?
After the taser?
Correct. I'm sorry. After she said taser and used her gun, did the car move?
Yes.
Just want to clarify a couple of things. You were asked if you were disoriented from the struggle and the loud noise. You said loud noise. Why were you feeling disoriented at that time?
Inside the vehicle with such a loud noise kind of throws your balance off and confuses you a little bit.
Did it affect your ability to sort of do your job right at that moment?
I was leading and moved the question to stricken.
Well, I'll let you finish the question first. What is your question?
Did that affect your ability to do your job at that moment in time?
The objection is overruled. I'll let you answer.
Not specifically to do my job.
Were you disoriented at all from the struggle, as counsel asked you?
No.
You were asked, you thought the car took off like a jet. Was jet your word?
No.
Would you ever describe it as taking off like a jet?
No.
Did Mr. Wright ever strike you?
No.
Did the passenger ever strike you?
No.
Did Mr. Wright ever grab a hold of you?
No.
Did Mr. Wright try to grab a hold of the shift knob?
Yes.
Were you able to prevent that?
Yes.
Mr. Earl Gray, Mr. Gray, with a name like Matt Frank, I should not make that mistake. Mr. Gray asked you if you were lying over the female. At any time, was it necessary to hold yourself up by leaning on her?
To hold myself up?
Right.
I was just kind of balancing against her.
Okay. Were you standing on the ground at that point?
Yes.
What was the point of leaning against her?
So that she wouldn't be involved in what was going on.
Based on your training and experience all these years as a police officer, are you trained about entering cars of people who might flee?
No.
You don't receive training on that?
No.
Is it a good idea to enter a car that's fleeing?
Not if it's driving away.
Okay. So in entering in the car, are you taking some risks?
Yes.
And by grabbing the shift knob, did you alleviate that risk? You indicated earlier about a weapons warrant. Is it always good to be concerned about the potential of a weapon when you make a traffic stop?
Yes.
And so that makes you, I guess, extra aware to the presence of a weapon. Would that be fair?
Yes.
At any time during your interaction with Mr. Wright, did you see a weapon?
No.
Did you see him reach for a weapon?
No.
In the years that you've been working as a police officer, have you had to draw your taser?
Yes.
Have you ever drawn your handgun instead of...
The objection is sustained beyond scope.
Does it exceed expectations to draw a gun and shoot somebody to death instead of their taser?
The objection is sustained.
Your Honor, may I have a sidebar with the court?
Yes.
So again, I am sorry. We've been having upstream audio dropouts periodically today. So just we'll do our best to keep bringing this to you. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. I think we did not get an answer to the last question because of those objections.
Okay, if the objection is sustained, it's beyond the scope.
So when Miss Potter on this day, April 11th, told you that she had pulled the wrong gun and used her Glock instead of her taser, is that inconsistent with what you thought of her when you said she exceeded expectations before?
I don't know what she was thinking at that time.
And that's partly because you didn't see the incident from her perspective.
Correct.
So your opinion about, well, all right. In the years that you have worked with Ms. Potter, and particularly over the last few years, have you come to like her?
Yes.
And you mentioned doing the carrying caskets. I think there's a better description for that. What is that?
I believe she was a lieutenant with the Law Enforcement Memorial Association.
And so what does she do for that?
They provide support for law enforcement funerals.
And you appreciate that she does that?
Yes.
And you like that she does that?
Yes.
Do you admire her?
Yes.
Did you consider her a good coworker?
Yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
With respect to hollow point bullets, are they used by law enforcement because a hollow point bullet will stay inside of the person shot rather than go through the person and hit somebody else?
That is a ballistic characteristic, yes.
Yes, and that's why they're used?
Yes.
And a car can be considered a weapon, correct?
Yes.
If it takes off fast, fleeing somebody, and it hits somebody, that's a weapon, that car, correct?
Could be, yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Anything further from the state?
Yes, sure. I'll be brief. One thing that can hollow point bullets also affect the damage done to the person shot?
Yes.
And in training as a police officer, have you been trained about the dangers of shooting occupants of vehicles?
Good. Object outside the scope of my cross-examination.
The objection is overruled. You may answer.
I don't think we've ever had a specific training on that.
On shooting occupants of motor vehicles?
On shooting into a vehicle, yes.
And in fact, there's a policy about it. Is there a policy in Brooklyn Center about that?
Yes.
And is there also a policy about using a taser on people who are operating motor vehicles?
Judge, same objection. I didn't mention it at all.
All right. I'm going to let you answer.
Somebody that's operating a vehicle, yes.
And so the reason for that is what?
If they're moving, driving a vehicle, and you incapacitate them, it could cause an accident.
That's just what Mr. Gray was getting at, correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Gray.
At the time that Daunte Wright was shot, was that vehicle moving?
No.
That's all I have.
Anything further?
Where?
You may step down. All right, members of the jury, we're going to break for lunch, and I'll check the weather in the meantime, okay?
Thank you all for joining us. This is Dan at Unicorn Riot. So we just heard from Michael Johnson, a police officer, who was a police officer in Brooklyn Center, and one of the principal people that was present when Kim Potter shot Daunte Wright. So that concludes his testimony, and we heard, I think, 3 rounds of both direct examination and cross-examination.
Okay, please be seated, counsel. I take it the state has seen the defense's objections to the exhibits.
Your Honor, are you referring to the autopsy photos?
Yes.
We did receive the email, yes.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to look at these photographs, but if they have already been shown in the past.
Your Honor, they have not, and I do have plans to get a flash drive for the court and counsel in our break.
Okay, good. Thank you. We'll deal with that. I don't know if we're going to get to the medical examiner today or not, but we might as well try to take care of this, as soon as we can. Right.
Are we leaving early today, Judge?
I'm checking the weather, okay, because I want everybody to be safe. But yeah, and we're breaking for an hour. We'll start up again at 12:30. I may call you in earlier to talk about exhibits, okay?
1:30, Your
Honor? 12:30? 1:30. Oh, that's right. Excuse me. It'd be 1:30.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. We've been on day 7 of prosecution witnesses and cross-examination of the defense in the Kim Potter trial. We appreciate all your support. Thank you for having respectful chats for the most part in Facebook and YouTube. And we do appreciate that. We've also been live on Twitter and Twitter Studio. And we're starting to run videos on Vimeo. We now have Vimeo capacity to run live as well. So please subscribe to all of our channels. We really do count on your support, not just for donations, which is great, but also for sharing our content. We're not a huge corporation. We don't have our own broadcast frequencies and things like that. So we do really count on your support. There's been some kind of back and forth about whether or not they'll quit because of weather today, but it seems like the snow is holding off. So it seems like the afternoon session is expected to continue, but they're not sure if they're going to get to the medical examiner today. So that is what's been going on, what we've been hearing from. So one moment, please. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to April 11th, right? We've been watching footage from April 11th. We've been watching, the multiple angles of this car attack, of this fatal exchange. And so what transpired later in the day was, things were already fairly tense in the Twin Cities because that was during Derek Chauvin's trial in the spring. And so there was a significant protest that assembled in Brooklyn Center in the evening. And where we left off with that video on the morning break was the police had called a dispersal order. They ruled an unlawful assembly. Now, what happened repeatedly in the spring was the law enforcement authorities, instead of just, letting people express their feelings, and in some cases they were throwing things like plastic bottles at armored police officers. That is what our reporter observed happening. But, the authorities repeatedly, night after night in Brooklyn Center, they decided that they would declare unlawful assemblies, clear the crowd, shoot chemical munitions at those crowds, because they really did not want to let those people express their feelings out in the street. And instead of just, there's different enforcement actions they could have taken. If the issue was plastic bottles, like that's not like every person is throwing plastic bottles in the crowd. And I think the courts have been pretty clear that even if one person in a crowd does something, that doesn't mean that everyone in the crowd is also doing the same thing at the same time. And so what we saw was very aggressive police action clearing crowds. And later, it became more clear that the people that live in those apartment buildings next to the police station, you'll see those apartment buildings in the video, and that you'll see that those folks did experience serious repercussions. Toxic chemicals got into their apartments, causing a number of different health problems because riot dispersal technology, those chemicals are really quite unsafe. They're really much less safe than they're made out to be, and especially for long-term exposure. Researchers, folks looking into this, especially in the Pacific Northwest, have found that there are endocrine disruptions. There are especially disruptions to the female reproductive system and things like that. There's really a number of different serious health issues that come from chemical munitions, and so we are going to take a look at some of that. So, content advisory. This is definitely a depiction of police violence live from our stream. So we're just going to go through that. And we're waiting an hour for them to come back from lunch. And we are expecting court to resume, although it may end early because of the weather. Thank you all for joining us. Again, this is Dan at Unicorn Riot. You can take a look at our website, unicornriot.ninja. Kim Potter trial. Nico has been helping out today, throwing the updates in there. I'll just show you this page if it loads. So you can follow this page for updates. We've been tagging on a lot of stuff. There's sort of a summary of the morning on there. So I think we're going to keep rolling. I will have to, I think, break the stream a little bit before we come back for lunch because of a technical issue on Facebook. But we do really appreciate your kind support. Thank you, everyone. And stay tuned. And we'll basically have to go down and up to kind of rotate the stream specifically for Facebook. But we're going to look at this footage, which ran back in live on our platform on April 11th, earlier this year. Thank you all for tuning in.
I am Captain Carling on behalf of the Brooklyn Center Police Department. The police department has declared this assembly unlawful under the laws of the state of Minnesota. Minnesota Statute 609-715 prohibits remaining present at an unlawful assembly. You are hereby ordered to immediately disperse, which means leave this area. Please do so by going east of Humboldt Avenue.
So right around that 10-minute mark, the officer was given about 10 minutes ago. Everyone needs to leave or they will be arrested.
The time of 10 minutes has elapsed.
The 10
If you
minutes is
remain
up.
present, you may be arrested. Thank you for your cooperation. Fuck you!
People have spray painted the Brooklyn Center sign up here, the police department signs. I see ACAB, fuck 12 written on it. People are standing on it. Police have declared an unlawful assembly. Most of the crowd has moved back to the street. That is the police station right here, 6645 Humboldt.
Shut
Right, man. Y'all don't let y'all line up with some shit. Oh, damn.
We got the milk at ready.
We do this every night. Stay tight. We do this every night. Stay together. Stay tight. We do this every night. Together. Stay tight. We do this every night. Stay together. We do this every night.
Again, unlawful assembly was declared about 5 minutes ago. It was declared about 15 minutes ago, and now the 10 minutes were up when they gave 10 minutes off of the dispersal order. They told everybody to disperse. People have moved back about 75 feet from where the police are. So it's just pressed between this line of protesters that have gathered. Tons of people are in the streets, probably hundreds. This crowd is maybe growing to 1,000 by now. Again, Daunte Wright was killed earlier today around 2 p.m. by Brooklyn Center police officers, we believe. Still, the details are all the way unclear.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. She got build.
Yeah, because when they make us want to put in our office. Oh, you gotta be prepared.
So again, we're here at a standoff at this point. police are going to the other side of the building where it looks like some other people have gathered. Oh, those aren't other people, those are just a bunch of officers.
We are all unarmed, standing here protesting. Y'all got guns and shit.
Scary as hell.
The police department parking lot. They have officers on the roof over here too. Here's a lead guy. I didn't catch his name. He read out the dispersal order though.
Yeah, they're moving in.
Police are now moving in. Across the police station is a parking lot and an apartment complex, as well as another parking lot with a strip mall. The spatial a spatial win for the community, essentially, where they can utilize that space. More things going on. A couple officers are ready to shoot.
Why you scared? Why you scared? Why you scared, bitch? Hey, bitch! Hey, bitch! Hey, bitch! Bitch! Bitch, I'm talking to you. Why you scared? Bitch, I'm talking to you. Why is you scared? Why is you scared? Bitch, I'm talking to you. Scary ass. Why you scared? Y'all scared. This bitch ass nigga. Whether or not he's gonna rush out, that's a good point. Now we've seen in the past that is the time.
They've arrested somebody. I can't see. I didn't see it happen. Looks like that person was up at the scene earlier.
Mom, fuck your dad. I don't give a fuck if you got cancer. Fuck every single body. Fuck every single one of you niggas. Fuck 12. If you like 12, y'all can suck my dick.
Hey, what up? You want to talk at all?
Really say, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we can really say right now, same old thing. We're seriously out in St. Paul, having a nice peaceful march for Justin Teagan. It's his birthday today. And I say about 2 hours into our protest, we got word that someone else had got shot in Brooklyn Center. So we low-key out here trying to just calm down the situation and see what's going on and make sure everything is good. But as you can see, same old stuff, ain't nothing changing. So we just gonna stay out here. No justice, no peace.
As a black man, what is it like as another young black man lost his life to the hands of police?
I mean, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, because a lot of us out here trying to do good. We're just trying to keep the peace. We ain't trying to stress nothing, trying to mind our business. But just like you just saw on TV, that young lieutenant that was harassed by the police. I served 13 years in the military, special forces. So I feel the same way. I served over at least 13 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, all over the world, just to come back and still be harassed by the same system that I fought for. So I have every right to be out here, and that's what makes us grow stronger and more angrier. Like, we try to abide by, but you don't give us no room to, so here we are.
How do you feel like change can happen, and how does that come about if you do?
Change will happen, and then this is it right here. This is us unifying, being together. You see, we be peaceful. We're not doing nothing wrong. We're standing here. The only ones that are not being peaceful are them right now. They're forcing up with the sticks. You don't see no weapons on none of us. We have no weapons. We have no guns, no mace, no nothing. The only way we can find peace is if the system changes. We've already recognized what the problem is, and it's the system. It ain't white, it ain't black, it ain't Puerto Rican, it's the system. So something in the system got to change, and if it don't, we're going to be out here every night, every day, and we're going to continue to control the masses.
Anything else you want to say?
That's it.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, man. Officer looks like he just got hurt. Here goes. Woo! They just threw off a bunch. They're throwing off another one. There's a bunch of munitions that the police throw, concussion grenades, flashbangs. I don't think that any of that was tear gas, but it might have been. Mostly flashbangs. And I saw one of the colored smokes. Most of the people have moved back, but they're still here. Trash and crime tape is strewn about. This is in the midst of the George Floyd murder trial of Derek Chauvin, and this community is very uptight, understandably so. A 20-year-old Daunte Wright was killed earlier by Brooklyn Center Police Department. Oh, they just shot him for looking at the flashbang.
Riot Control DC. Riot Control DC. It's like an orange text. They had some green gas stuff. I don't know what that shit is, but I've heard it's some nasty ass shit.
Yeah, the green smoke.
Yeah.
So they just, I don't know if you saw that, they shot homie in the leg. You just got shot, you want to talk about it?
Man. Ooh. I can't right now, bro.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
They're just shooting more. They just aimed at me for a second. So it looks like they're making the moves more, about 5 more feet. Oh, they're continuing past that 5 feet. They're probably going to push people out off of their property. Bringing the trash can out of their way. People are putting up like soft blockade right now, sort of, with some branches and a trash can. My fault. You good? Yeah, we're all here on 66 Humboldt. There's a lot of spray paint that's already been had. ACAB, F12, fuck 12. 12 is a number for the police. I believe they derived from police precinct in Baltimore. I could be wrong. After Freddie Gray was murdered, there was an uprising in Baltimore, if you weren't aware. That's where fuck 12 became really popular in the mainstream anyway. I don't know exactly where it developed from. Thanks, D. D in South Africa, part of UR, says F12 actually originated from ATL, from Atlanta. So yeah, thanks, D, for that clarification. 12 came from Atlanta and became popularized, I believe, during the Baltimore uprising for Freddie Gray. There goes the police trying to shoot more, aiming their rifles. A lot of projectiles being thrown at the cops right now. A lot of projectiles. Looks like some more shots. They just... Woo! Damn, my motherfucking ear. A lot of tear gas. Goddamn. Riot Control OC from Defense Technology. Check out our Twitter feed. We'll probably be having a lot more little information. Defense Technology is a contractor. Whew, spicy. Here goes a 40 millimeter marker round right here is an orange one. Shot at somebody, the rest got pushed off onto their skin or their belongings, clothes. Here's a flashbang empty bit or a top end of a tear gas, OC gas, OS gas, OC, excuse me. And then here goes the riot control OC gas. There's another one burning the grass up. You okay, man? So a lot of the people have continued to hang around. Hundreds still left. Trash is thrown about. Damn, they just shot him for looking at it. Yeah, I saw it. It's Defense Technologies. Oh. Yep. Yeah, we got it too. Defense Technology, OC gas. Thank you. They just shot that. Another person in the back, you can see the remnants. I believe that's some of the chalk. While he was trying to pick this up and look at it. They obviously do not want that to happen. More shots being had. This one in the middle of the street is still burning. More Defense Technology. I'm not going to try to pick it up. Oh, come on. There we go. So again, this is Nico from Unicorn Riot reporting live off of 66 near Humboldt Avenue, where the Brooklyn Center Police Department have a station. That's their station in the distance off to the left. Crowd had gathered around after the killing of Daunte Smith, 20 years old, earlier today off of 63rd and Lee. Crowd gathered there for some hours. The family was out. People maneuvered their way over to the police station, and now this is what's occurred. They threw a bunch of trash at the police. The police responded by giving a dispersal order and then coming out and shooting a lot of riot control weapons. They call them less lethals. The 40 millimeter marker round, they've been known to cause brain damage, severe injuries, and knock out eyeballs, and cause blindness, and a few other very serious health issues. Tear gas as well, which they just shot, is prohibited in warfare. They're allowed to use tear gas in the United States. Police are allowed to use it, but tear gas is prohibited in war. No stuff, all day. Okay. So, when we're talking about the tear gas, in Portland, there was some really good research around it. Dr. Juniper Simons, I believe, put out a lot of research showing how tear gas affects and impacts the body and the biology of people's body. And it's very, very bad for you. It causes women problems during their moon. It causes just a ton of issues chemically and health-wise. And police used so much tear gas last summer. There's a lot of people still dealing with the impacts of that here in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, as well as I just referenced, Portland, where they used so much throughout the summer last summer. So, again, people are here gathered in front of the Brooklyn Center Police Department for Daunte Wright, who was killed earlier today by police here in Brooklyn Center. He was 20 years old, killed during a traffic stop. Yeah. Oh my God.
Look at what you do to your community! Is that what you're here for?
How'd it feel?
What are you doing?
That shit hurt, bro. I still can't do it, but that shit hurt, dog. That shit hurt. I mean, this shit is crazy. I'm paranoid right now. They're gonna shoot me while I'm in front of your camera, bro. I'm paranoid right now. They're gonna shoot me while I'm in front of your camera, bro. Like, this shit is... They're crazy out here, bro. They crazy, dog.
Oh, man. I'm so sorry that happened to you, man. Get some ice on it for like 2 days straight, man. You saw the injury on the shin. That looked horrible. Chris June out here taking photos, doing his thing. Right here's a good shot. You want to talk at all?
Not right now.
Yeah.
I'm busy covering.
Yep. We hear somebody in the background saying, "We are peaceful." Again, there's just trash all over the ground. A lot of it was thrown at the police or from a trash can. You want to talk about it? Yeah? You want to be on film?
Yeah, sure. I just walked up across this whole line, and I asked each and every single one of these police officers if they were proud of themselves, and none of them could look me in the eye. You know, I asked them if they have like family, they have kids, and if like their kids are proud of what they're doing. None of them could look me in the eye. They all threatened me with physical violence when I just wasn't a threat to them at all. It's crazy. Is this Unicorn?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I really appreciate your media. Thanks.
Appreciate you, man. Nico Desmond.
Looks like she got tear gassed.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
More. Damn. Shooting more. They shot those into the sky. They look like they shot them as comparatively to throwing them. Those ones, the way the trajectory on that one came. Yeah, so how does it feel being out here?
It feels like shit. There's nothing to be proud of. It's just like standing up for what's right. It's just too long, man. People can't wait for justice. There's no change. I see no change. I see no future. The future that I see is right here. This is what I see as the future. These people believe in something, and they're willing to fight for it. So, like, good for them.
Yeah. You seem like a youth. Can you talk about that? Just like what may be able to transpire from your generation?
To be honest, that's a really complex question. I can't really answer that in this moment. I'm still trying to figure that out at this moment.
Thank you. Yeah.
But thanks.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I'll be right here with you, man.
All right. Thanks, man. People are using the trash can as a shield. Getting a little closer and a little closer. So a lot of people out here in the street. Check out News on Purpose live streaming as well. Hey. People are asking if the tear gas de-escalated them, and they said no.
Yeah, if you want, I can walk with you.
Oh, wait, yeah, thanks. I'll be okay either way. Appreciate you, man. Respect. Yeah, man, respect right back. That's a special operations van or vehicle or bus or whatever you'd want to call it, truck.
Move up! Move up! Let's go! Move up together!
Yeah, we're here live out in Brooklyn Center. Check out our Twitter feed for some more information. I think we got some clips coming up there. Yeah, so check out the Twitter feed, UR_ninja. I think we got some clips as well as some, sorry. We also got some information on defense technologies. They're shooting marker rounds, 40mm marker rounds, and defense technology CS gas out here. That is the police station right here. You can see inside of it some of the officers changing out their helmets and gas masks. Still about a few hundred cars that have pulled up around this area.
No peace! Up, Trump! No peace! Up, Trump! No peace! No peace!
People are moving back up.
No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace!
I thought it was a cop.
No, sir. Bro-bro's good.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit. Rap out here protected. Bikers riding against police brutality. Hey, thank you.
When will my brothers and sisters be able to go to the store and not be scared about coming back? Right. When will they? When will they? When can they go to the store and not worry about their fucking life? When will they? Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
People have moved all the way back up to the entrance of the police station, basically, or the entrance to the one of the parking lots. There's one officer ready to shoot. At least one. There's two of them right there.
This ain't even no color issue. Real shit. This ain't even no color.
We got the umbrellas out.
Mom.
I just shot somebody right next to me. God damn. God damn. Very jumpy cops out here. This water bottle's getting thrown at them and they're shooting 40mm marker rounds at people. God damn, he just, oh, what the fuck? Are you alright, man? They just shot dude right in the chest. He's pressed. Yeah. What the fuck? Did you get hit? What the fuck, man? Two press standing right the fuck here. Sorry about the language, you all. They're jumpy as fuck. Sorry about this.
Oh, fuck. Dude, they just hosed the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I saw that.
They just hosed the fuck out of me, though, but they ain't breaking my spirits.
Right up on your shoulder, right? I was watching it. I thought that's what it blew up on.
It blew on it hit another dude on his shoulder and blew up off of me. So you just got hit like how many times?
At least 10 times. Here they come, here they come.
They're coming to move the trash can that people were using as a shield. All you were trying to do was look at the less lethal that was shot at, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
You just moved up to the line and...
I moved right to the front. I wanted to, like, I figured that was like some sort of tear gas or something, and I just wanted to throw it right back at them, but they got me good.
Yeah.
Man. Fuck 'em.
Yeah, that's a lot of shots.
Yeah, dude, they got me at least 10 times.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
At least 10 times, yeah. Fucking hurts, but like they're not breaking my spirits. They don't seem to be breaking anybody else's spirits. So, yeah.
Thank you. Man, you heard that. It's sort of what people are seeing out here is they're just still standing. They're still standing out here. It's not breaking anybody's spirits. So what we just heard. Here goes another defense technology. It's the top end of one of their CS gas, probably.
Protect my brothers and sisters! Protect my brothers and sisters!
And the police are shooting a lot of munitions out here. Good.
Yeah, this shit is ridiculously like Portland all over again.
Right? Oh, they just shot that dude. Try to go up again and they keep shooting them. So every time somebody tries to grab one of their munitions that they shoot at people, they're shooting more munitions at people. They're going to move their special operations tank up to the front. You got shot again.
Standing in the fucking leg twice. Here and here for standing in the street. For standing in the fucking street. You saw me right there.
With your hands up.
My hands were on the top of my fucking head. I can't stand in the street after the police murder some kid. Are you kidding me? This is fucking insane. If you're sitting at home right now, get to the fucking streets. Oh, fucking hell.
They stop them? Keep stopping it? King Demetrius out here streaming too.
Yeah. They keep stopping. They keep stopping my feed. They keep stopping it every chance they get.
Dang. Trying to reconnect. King Demetrius having troubles out here with this feed. Thinks they're targeting the feeds. There's a possibility out here. It's happened before. Again, there's just like hundreds of people out here in the yard of the apartment complex and the strip mall. Once again, we have a police station semi under siege. The community is very upset. Daunte Wright, 20 years old, shot by Brooklyn Center police earlier today.
Y'all don't get no pee.
People are looking for some kind of accountability and justice, and they're getting met with police less lethals. This gentleman was shot twice in the leg for standing right there. He's now kneeling. They're still shooting. Here's an image of Daunte.
Sorry. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us. They keep piping in funny classical music from court, so we've had that popping in periodically. So, due to some limitations of our streaming platforms, we're going to go down and then up again. Thank you all for joining us. Again, we may expect court to run kind of short today, and so that was footage from April 11th. That was sort of the immediate aftermath that night after Kim Potter killed Daunte Wright. And so that was our reporter Nico, who was out there in the field kind of talking to people that were involved in the demo out there. So just stand by. We will essentially come down and then come back in, I think, about 5 minutes or so. We do really appreciate your support. Thank you for being, having respectful chats. We do appreciate that. We're trying to, make a chat space available and hoping that it stays reasonably respectful. So thanks all for joining us. We do appreciate your support. Again, I'm Dan at Unicorn Riot. We have the Kim Potter trial landing page that's just been updated today. So you can reach that from the front page of our website. So just go to unicornriot.ninja, Kim Potter trial banner across the top there. And we've got the Care 11 outing a whistleblower to the Minneapolis police, and he killed himself. Got that story up with the Al Diddy story. That is out there as well. And we do have a post about the car attack. The story prior is the Ruby Montoya case that involves the Dakota Access Pipeline, and so that those are the most recent 3 stories. We definitely have a lot more things in the pipe, and we appreciate your support. If you go down to the bottom of our website, I'll also mention this. We have a sign up for our newsletter field in there, and that's a good idea. Honestly, signing up for the newsletter is good. We don't send out a ton of them, but it is very helpful because honestly, we depend on everyone to kind of share our material on social media, but obviously these big companies decide what goes up on the algorithm. Things go up and down, and we're not huge spammers, so it makes a big difference if you can share out our material. We do really appreciate it. Again, I'm Dan. Thank you for everyone in the group who's been working hard on this. Everyone in Unicorn Riot has been working hard on the trial. I just want to say that Dee, Nico, Alex, Chris, Akichita, everyone's been working in kind of in rotations. And so we don't have live tweets going today because we're just, didn't have the staff available for it to run the live tweets today. But stay tuned and we'll just kind of keep on bringing this to you as much as we can. We really appreciate it, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and we will be back in less than 10 minutes. Thank you.